Guys, today I have come with a new topic on Python. Basically, today we are going to do conditional statements. If, else. How exactly do we write that in Python? How do we write those blocks basically in Python? So I'll write like conditional statements. Will be our topic for today. And I'll just mention that. So we are going to go like conditional statements. Now there are certain keywords which we are going to use, which we are actually familiar with if we are been anyone knowledgeable about coding. So like if is for like a conditional check, then we have else. There's something called else if in C, which over here is written as elif for multiple condition checks. There are certain blocks basically, so I'll just start off with a normal block like if only block. So let's say if we have a variable by the value of 5. Now how do we write an if statement? So we write if and then we write our condition over here. Now the condition in C, we have to basically write it in the form of a parenthesis. So over here we can simply go ahead and write the condition as it is. So let's say if a is greater than 1, and then we add a colon which indicates the start of the block. Now in Python there is no curly braces to indicate that this is the block within if statement. So what we do over here in Python is something called indentation. So whatever we write over here, so this whole section is what is contained in the if block. So let's say I just write print inside if, and I also print like a is greater than 1. Similarly, we just print outside if block. So when we run this code, since it's Jupyter, we can simply go ahead and write shift enter, or we can go ahead and click on this particular button. So I'm just going to write shift enter. I'm just going to press shift enter together. Inside if block, 5 is greater than 1. Outside if block. So what happens over here is this condition is checked, which is true. So if the condition is true, it goes inside this block, and whatever is inside the block is getting executed. This particular section is outside the if block. So basically this is going to be executed irrespective of the if block being true or false. Let's check that out. So if I give this a value of -5, so now -5 is not greater than 1, this condition is false. So when we run this, we just get this particular statement and not this statement. If I go ahead and put this over here, now we are going to get nothing as an output because everything is contained within this if block, and since the if block condition is false, nothing goes. The condition does not basically run any part of that if block. Okay, the other block would be like if else block. So I'll do what? Just write a is equals to 5 again. If a is greater than 6, print we are inside if block, and then I just write a statement else, print inside else block, and then we have something like print further code. So when I run this, it's going inside the else block because this condition is now false. So when the if condition is false, it just goes from here to the else part of the statement and then executes whatever is written within the else statement. So if we have another print statement like if, similarly we have like print else, and so on. So we get that 2 lines executed. So whatever is within this particular block, like this thing, if I do write like this, so we are going to get an indentation error because it's expecting something over here, which it is not receiving. Now it gets that and it's going to execute this section of the code. So basically this part is nothing but the block, basically the indentation. This indentation is given by a tab space or 4 white spaces, 4 space bars basically. Alright, so this is an if else block, how exactly that looks like. Then we have something called a nested if else block. So nested if else block, how it works is, if we have let's say a number, and let's say we have a number like 6, and we want to check whether this number is divisible by 2, divisible by 3, divisible by both 2 and 3, or divisible by neither 2 or neither not 3. So we can just go ahead and do like a mod 2 equals 0, and then I'm just going to do another if condition within this. So a mod 3 equals 0. Obviously guys, there are multiple ways of doing this part, but I just wanted to explain you how exactly a nested if else works. So I can just simply write over here a is divisible by both 2 and 3. Similarly, write an else statement over here, print a is divisible by only 2. So I'll just write the code and explain what exactly is happening in this. So a modulus 3 equals 0. In this case, print a is divisible by only 3, and then finally an else statement, print a is divisible by neither 2 nor 3. So what happens over here? The first condition is checked. If this is true, then this entire thing is the if block. After that, this condition is checked. So if this condition and this condition both are true, then it goes inside this and exits the whole block. This whole thing is one block, this whole thing is one block, this whole thing is one block. So either of if statement will get executed or the else statement is going to get executed depending on this condition. Once this condition has been tested, whether it's true or false, let's say if it's true, then within this, either this condition is going to be true, then this is going to be executed, otherwise this particular statement is going to be executed. Similarly, if the statement is false, then it comes over here indirectly, and over here is going to check for this condition. If this is true, then either this condition gets executed, or if this is false, then this condition gets executed. So out of all these 4 statements, only one of them gets executed depending on if it is true, this one. If it is true, false, then this executes. If it is false and this is true, then this executes. And if this is false, this is also false, then finally this particular section gets executed. This is how a nested if else works, guys. You have to remember indentation is very important in Python. So when I run this, obviously 6 is divisible by both 2 and 3, so we get that value. Now if I write 7 over here and it goes to this condition, so the code is working fine. It's basically checking for that what we intended to, and this is how a nested if else works in Python. You have to remember the indentation is very important, guys. If I write it like this, I'm going to get a indentation error. Similarly, the Python errors are very nicely written. You can actually easily identify what is the error, and most of the time it's mostly our own personal coding errors, because sometimes when we are relatively new to a language, we tend to mess up certain things. Alright, now with that block, we have another block called if, elif, else block. Or just we can have an elif as well, just an if and elif. So if let's say we have a number. Now in Python you can take a user input using the input function, and since it always returns a string kind of an object, so I am basically typecasting it with an int type. So I'm also writing a message like enter a number, and after that, if a modulus 2 equals 0, in this case also I'm just going to write one more statement over, and a modulus 3 equals 0, in this case I'm just going to print a is divisible by both 2 and 3. It makes sense because the AND operator is going to check both the conditions, and if both of them are true, then only it goes inside this. Now what happens is that if we write just else over here, then in this case, if this condition is false, it directly goes into else. Now sometimes we want to check for multiple conditions. In that case, we want to write else if over here, which in Python is written as elif. And then after elif we write a condition. Let's say a modulus 2 equals 0. So obviously if this particular statement is false, in that case it's going to check whether this is true. If this is true, in that case it's going to be returning us this message, divisible by only 2. And then finally we can have an elif a modulus 3 equals 0, which is going to print a is divisible by only 3. So when I run this code, it is going to give us a prompt where it asks us to enter a number. So let's say I enter 8. Now I'm going to get this statement is true, this is false. So the AND operator makes this whole statement false. Comes over here, checks for this condition. Now modulus basically checks for your remainder, and if you divide 8 by 2, the remainder is 0, and the equals to basically forms a true comparison. And now over here, this particular message gets executed. Now the whole thing is again one single block, so either this will get executed, or this will get executed, or this will get executed, depending on which part of that, or neither of them gets executed. Let's say if I enter like 7, nothing gets printed because there is no condition handling 7. This condition is not handling that 7 wala part, this condition is not handling 7, and this condition is also not handling 7. So if you want to handle that 7, like if you want to handle the final case, like if everything fails, in that case you have to write an else statement. So else print a is divisible by neither 2 nor 3. So now if I write 7, it's going to the else part. So in this particular block, either this will get executed, or this, or this, or this. To get that understanding on this, let's have like a is equals to 10, b is equals to 20, c is equals to 30. If I write like if a plus, or if a is like equals to 10, print if elif b equals 20, print elif1. If I write elif a plus b equals c, print elif2. And then finally we have an else statement printing else. So what happens over here, guys, is that this condition is checked for first, and we see that yeah, a's values is 10, so this condition is true, and this particular statement is basically printed. After that, this condition also is true, but once this condition is true and it goes inside this, it is going to get out of this entire block of code. This whole thing is one single block, so you have to remember that. So only if will be printed over here. And let's say if I remove this elif over here, so now this is one block and this is another block. And now if you see this particular part, this is one block and this is one block. So now this block, this particular statement is true, so this gets printed. After that, it comes to this block where this statement is true, and now this is going to get printed. So always remember which block you are in when you're using conditional statements, so that you know what part of the code is going to get executed. Towards the end, I just want to get your focus over here, where we want to just tell that, like in binary 0 and 1, like 0 is termed as false, 1 is termed as true. So if I write if a, print yes, and then I write else, print no. So what happens over here, since 0 is false, so this condition becomes false inherently, and so it goes to else part. Now let's say if I just go ahead and change this 0 to 1, now this a is becoming true, so we get a yes over here. And if I change this to -1, still it is true, because 0 is false, everything else is some value attributed to the variable a. Similarly, if you can just go ahead and change this to an empty string contains nothing, so it's false. If I add a space in between, so now it becomes true and yes is printed. So that's what I wanted to basically showcase over here, like how do we use if else. One more thing, if we see like a is equals to 5, if I write like if a is greater than 10, then print some statement over here like if, print if, and so on. Now if in the else statement I am currently unsure of what exactly it is to be written over here, so in that case, if I don't write anything, like if I go ahead with my further code, I'm going to get an indentation error. So over here you can use something called a pass. Pass is like a no operational keyword, which is like a placeholder, and it just stays there. It makes your code run syntactically correct, and let you go ahead with the code while you come up with the logic what you want to basically replace this pass with. Now it's going to work fine. Since the statement is false, it goes inside this, pass does nothing, so it just prints print for the code. Okay guys, with that I'd like to end this session. If you have any doubts regarding this topic or any other topic in Python, feel free to leave a comment and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And thank you for watching this video. And we just one single quote for you. So thank you, and have a very nice day. See you soon again with another topic. Bye bye. Have a good day.